not the prettiest game, but man, it's a tough game. I thought both teams played with great toughness and grit. We're getting better defensively finally, and obviously I have an unbelievable amount of respect for Brad and his coaching, and they're a tremendous defensive team. And we showed that we can be at times too. It's just hard to make baskets. Nothing is easy. A lot of active hands, a lot of deflections. Neither one of us are high-pressure type teams, and there's, 29 turnovers, and you can say it's sloppy offense, but to be honest with you, it was really good defense on both ends of the court. We got big guys that are active and can move, so things are hard to finish. Proud of our guys, obviously a little depleted and with additional foul trouble, had, again, really had to kind of scrap together some lineups, but proud of our effort. Can't be disappointed with our effort. We can be disappointed in the result and not being able to finish a game on the road. And we just got to, again, this team's not defined by the injuries and all the stuff we've gone through. It's got to be defined by our ability to respond to the tough times. And I think we've done a good job, and we got to do it again for the next game.
And you guys were up 5 points 6 minutes to go. What was the difference for them clamping on defense and kind of shutting you out a little bit more, or clamping you down the last stretch of the game? Well,
I don't think they did anything different defensively. I think there was either three straight or 2 out of 3 possessions we had turnovers. And, obviously their defense had a lot to do with it. We didn't set up some screens. And if you don't set up screens against them, it's going to be hard to even enter the ball. They did a good job. That was a critical time, and they bank on their defense, and their defense got probably four or five stops in a row, which is, and then they turned the 1 turnover into a layup on the other end, which might have been, it was, they only had 5 fast break points. That was 2, so. Again, it was the ebbs and flows of the game. In that particular case, we got some good looks at the basket. We got the ball to Daniel, and we wanted to try to keep doing that. But, when we rely heavily on the 2 sophomores, Marcus and Chris, to make some plays, especially in the situation we're in. And unfortunately, they didn't shoot the ball well tonight. I didn't give Clemson credit for that.
Brian, you say that the team's not going to be defined by the injuries and things like that, but how hard is it for these guys to just keep their head up when these things maybe keep happening and, maybe they come out on the downside of the cup? Well,
it's funny. It must be, that's about the 100th time I've been asked that, you know what I mean? And it's not a glib response, but what choice do they have? You know what I mean? They're playing at the best basketball conference in the country. They're playing in a tradition-rich program. They came here for a reason. The young guys came here to turn around the program from where it was at. They knew it wasn't going to be easy. You have to rely on your character and your resolve during that time, and that's why those guys were brought here. And Daniel and Cam decided to stay here for that, And so it's tested. I'm not going to say it's easy. You know what I mean? It ain't easy on me either. You know what I mean? But you have to have that. When you sign up for rebuilding, you don't if things work out perfect, then obviously things are much different right now. But it's we're walking a fine line in terms of we're close, we're getting there. And then you have these things, and you can turn around and say, wow, or you can fight. And in this life, you better fight, because if you're looking for fairness, you ain't getting it in this life. You know what I mean?
Sure. I thought I read that on Saturday you thought maybe Golden might be able to come back.
Right.
Be able to come back for this one, but it just wasn't.
We tried a little bit, and again, my thing always with injuries is I defer to the medical staff. I'm a basketball coach, and I got my major in social studies, secondary education. So I can tell you about Napoleon and guys like that, but when it comes to groin injuries, I have no idea. And so I refer that, and any injuries as well as that. You know what I mean? So we have a great staff, and they thought that it would be best for him not to try to push it today. So we went with who we had, and hopefully Saturday will be different. I do think if things go well, that Robert Carter will be able to play on Saturday. Limited, very limited, but I do think he'll get some minutes.
Yeah, the last play there, was that the way you wanted to set up Marcus driving to the basket, or were you trying to get something game?
Well, what we wanted is a couple of options. You have Marcus driving to the basket. He's hit a lot of clutch shots for us, and if they overhelped or helped hard, then you had Chris in the corner for 3. And then what we had Cam and Daniel on the backside for the offensive rebound. And luckily we got it. You know, Cam did a great job. Daniel took 2 guys out, which freed Cam. You know, I think, you know, one thing that kind of goes, you know, KJ was 3 of 14 and Marcus was 1 of 13. I'm no math whiz, but that's 4 of 27, and they guarded each other the whole night, you know, and it was a pretty good battle, you know, and a pretty good battle there, and you know, give Rod Hall credit. The guy hadn't made a shot, you know, hadn't made a shot, and he made the big one there with about a minute and a half left. Was, you know, so, but those are, you know, those are winning plays, and at the end they made a couple and we didn't.
You talked about how Marcus' shot wasn't falling. It seemed like he had a great 2-man game with Daniel. He really deferred to him and set him up a lot of times.
He did do a good job on that, and you know, I thought our guards at times were really good in terms of making good decisions with the basketball. You know, Corey has 5 assists and 0 turnovers for the game. You know, that last play a little bit, I think I'd like to have Marcus shoot that on the kick out, but we're getting a little better with the guards and the bigs working together on some ball screen stuff, on some rolls and some post feeds and stuff off that, and I think if we do get whole, that's going to pay off down the road, because Marcus has been forced to handle the ball a lot more than he ever was before, and that's only going to make him a better player down the road. Sometimes out of necessity, improvement comes, and that's what's happened with him.
Anybody else?
All right.